Good afternoon, Wednesday, October 28th, and here is a recap of what we did today. The first thing that we looked at was we actually looked at the raven that is photographed here from a scientist that I follow out in California. And we talked about the relationship possibly with what this raven is doing and what's going on in possibly the meadow. We wanted to know from our classes what processes are occurring in the meadow which would allow carbon to move. So students were asked to give processes, and then we dove into a deeper discussion of possibly how you would prove that those processes are occurring. And we took notes on this as we went through that discussion. I'll show you those notes right now and briefly describe kind of what we came up with. And you can feel free to pause these videos if you want to jot these notes down. So the most popular process that we noticed when we wrote down what processes are occurring in the meadow was photosynthesis. As a class, we discussed that we could possibly use BTB or maybe some other scientific equipment to see if carbon dioxide is decreasing or is somehow being removed from the meadow. And obviously plants are growing, which is an indicator that photosynthesis is occurring. We then discussed cellular respiration. And we were able to kind of come up with that if we saw evidence of motion and heat energy, which are often seen by animals that are moving, or also from hunting cameras that are often used to capture the infrared heat that's given off by animals, we know that cellular respiration is occurring. We could go deeper into that by measuring CO2 levels or oxygen being absorbed by these animals. We also know that in plants are growing, and so they're also carrying out the process of photosynthesis for that, or process of cellular respiration for that purpose. The other two processes we discussed were biosynthesis and death and decomposition. Both processes are sort of the opposites of each other. In biosynthesis, biomass or growth is occurring. In that case, we either get new cells or new materials as an organism thrives and lives in that particular ecosystem. During biosynthesis, small organic molecules are being put together into new, larger organic molecules, which provide us with either cells or new materials. The opposite of this, death and decomposition or decay, also occurs, which does require the process of cellular respiration. And the organisms that are carrying out that process, fungi and bacteria, are taking large organic molecules and breaking them down into small organic molecules, so that they can use for cellular respiration to survive. This releases CO2 back into the atmosphere where it can be reabsorbed possibly by plants down the road. Strong evidence of decomposition obviously are odors and smells that would indicate that small organic molecules are being given off. We can also see evidence of heat and identify sources of heat when decomposition is occurring. If you think about a compost pile that gives off heat, that is a good indicator of that. But again, you have to keep in mind that cellular respiration is related to decomposition because the organisms that are breaking this stuff down need energy as well. But it is the opposite of biosynthesis, as we see here. So after that discussion, the last thing that we did is we focused in on our lab that we're conducting, where we're examining what happens to biomass. So we're really looking at biosynthesis, but there's some other processes could be involved in why this is occurring. So the students were asked to actually run their simulations, and they were shown how to insert graphs by snipping those graphs from the actual simulator and putting them into their lab, and then answering the questions that are there. That concludes what we covered today. We will move tomorrow into carbon pools. We'll try to tie the processes into those pools and eventually start answering the question of why there is a biomass pyramid in the meadow. Have a great day, everyone, and go Bulldogs.